So Rama's going to record one more piece of the story before I end for today. All right. Charlie has ended his official school time career, but he's continuing to learn at home, and he has a very positive attitude, and he is always so friendly and cheerful that people in the town just like to be around him. All right, let's continue the story. Then, when he was 16, disaster struck. His mother, just at daylight, left the home to work in the garden. Charlie heard only the hideous screams and the heavy concussion of rifle fire. By the time he got to the backyard, the Indians were only a cloud of dust, fading in the distance. His mother lay in a crumpled heap, dead, simply because she surprised the Indians creeping through her yard, bent on some unknown bit of mischief. For 2 days, Charlie grieved alone in the little home. But then on the third day, he seemed to hear his beloved mother asking what had become of his great attitude. "Charles," she seemed to ask, "where is that special love that God gave you?" "Why, you know he loves you and would never allow this to happen if it weren't the best for both of us. Now, get up and get busy, and let's see that smile again." So, with the beginning of a smile breaking through the clouds in his heart, Charlie shuffled out the door. After Mrs. Langley was killed, the townspeople became very concerned. In fact, they were aroused to the point that the mayor, Soren Sorensen, called a special community meeting. Everyone tried to talk at once, but when the mayor was finally able to quiet them down, he was able to learn that they had two major concerns. First, of course, was their worry about further Indian troubles. Mrs. Langley's death had been but the latest in a long series of violent Indian acts. Second, Mayor Sorensen found to his surprise, was the townspeople's concern about Charlie. As old Jake Crackford pointed out, between chews on the quid that occasionally issued as a black jet from between his stained teeth and lips, he was a tobacco chewer. Charlie was now alone in the world, with no kin to be looked to for help. No kin, that is, except for the whole blame town. "What," Mayor Sorensen asked, "are you trying to say?" "Just this," replied George Reeves. "Charlie is pretty much a part of all of us, and I figure it's up to us to support him. Personally, I'll see that the bank gives $10 a month to—" "Now, hold up a bit," Jake interrupted. "I ain't talking about no handouts. Don't reckon Charlie'd accept none anyways. Leastwise, if I was him, I certain wouldn't. I was figuring more on some kind of a job." "A job?" 2 or 3 echoed in surprise. "Yeah, a job, tarnation. I figure Charlie can work just like anyone else." "But Jake, what kind of a job could a kid like Charlie do?" "Dag nabbit, I don't know. That's what you fellas is here for." As the discussion bounced back and forth, the mayor gradually stopped listening, for an idea had come to him. Charlie needed a job, and the town needed some way to be warned of the presence of Indians. What if— "Folks," he suddenly said, "I think I've got it. You've been telling me we need someone to be a lookout for Indians, someone who'd do a crackerjack job. Then you say we need to find work for Charlie. Well, I say, let's hire him to be our lookout." "But he's just a kid," Reeves shouted. "Hang it all," Jake shouted right back. "He's the doggone oldest kid this man's ever seen. Why, in some ways, I'm just a whippersnapper to the side of him. I say, give him the job." All in favor, say aye. Though it was most unusual and improper for a vote to be called in such a way by such a person, there was a chorus of assenting yeas. These included George Reeves, who, after a hasty glance at his peers, quickly added his voice. George was, after all, a businessman first, last, and always. And so it happened that Charlie was called into the office of the mayor, a place he had never been before. For a few moments, the mayor studied him carefully, and then he spoke. Charlie, we want you to know that we in this community feel a deep sorrow at the death of your mother. We also want you to know that we think an awful lot of you. For some time, we've been looking for a certain individual to do a special job for us. And the townspeople feel that you are the man we need. Are you interested? Charlie nodded, and the mayor continued. Charlie, you know that Indians are a real threat to our little town, located as we are. We need a man, someone very dependable, to stand watch over our city every day from daylight till dark to warn us of a possible attack. Do you think you could handle that? Again, Charlie nodded his affirmative. Now, Charlie, before you accept, I want you to think of one or two things. The first problem is with your walking. We feel that the best place for a lookout is on top of Baldy, just out of town. You know, the hill is steep and rough. Do you think you can get to the top and back down every day? For the first time, Charlie spoke, and as he did, his eyes blazed with determination. Mr. Mayor, sir, I can get to the top of Old Baldy, and I will, even if I have to crawl. The mayor smiled within himself at the pride he felt in the determination of this young man. Oh, for a son like this boy. And then he said, Charlie, there is another thing you need to think about. If you ever see Indians, we want you to build a fire to warn us. They didn't have telephones back then. Now, if we see that fire, the Indians will probably see it too. In that case, there is the definite possibility that you won't get back to town before they are upon you. How do you feel about that? Charlie sat for a long time in silence, and Mayor Sorensen began to get uncomfortable. But still he waited, and at last Charlie spoke. Sir, I don't want to die no more than anyone else, but I want to do the job, and I'll do my best at it. The way my mom used to put it, if a man wasn't willing to lay his life beside his word, then his word didn't mean much. I'm mighty thankful for the job, and I've given my word I'll do it. When do you want me to start? Tomorrow, Charlie, if you can. I'll have some of the boys haul some wood up there for you. I'll also see that you have a tent for shelter when you need it. Then each night, we'll want you to report in at the sheriff's office before you go home. Can you think of anything else? No, sir. And tomorrow will be fine. Good. And Charlie, we'll see that you have a good salary, plenty to live on. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Charlie. Remember, we're counting on you. So Charlie has a job, and he's going to do it. He's determined. Remember, Grandma loves you. I'll read you some more later.